If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
This is Rob Long with Martini Shot for The Ankler. There's a well-known English novelist whose name is spelled Anthony Powell. He wrote a series of novels set in 20th century England, but his last name is actually pronounced Pole, like pole dancer. But he's sort of a specific kind of author, so if you try to show off that you know who he is, you really do need to pronounce his name right, Anthony Powell, or you'll look like a poser. And ironically, his novels are mostly set in the world of people who are posers and people who don't like posers, people who say Powell and people who know how to say Pole. But then again, it is spelled Powell, so it's sort of a trap, isn't it? Magdalen College at Oxford is pronounced Magdalen for some reason that I don't even care enough about to chat GPT. And I know that some people pronounce the word patina as patina, but I say patina, and that really is the way it's supposed to be pronounced, although the kind of people who argue about patina, patina, or even, let's be honest, kind of people who use the word in the first place are sort of insufferable pains in the ass, right? And there is a wonderful Buddhist writer named or spelled Thich Nhat Hanh, which is pronounced Thich Nhat Hanh, according to the person who corrected my pronunciation years and years ago, who insisted he was a devoted follower of the great Buddhist teacher and writer, but really, how devoted could he have been, running around correcting people and making them feel bad for saying Thich and not Tick and Han instead of Han? Not terribly Buddhist, I don't think. I mean, at least the English people who know how to pronounce Anthony Powell won't correct you. They'll just pronounce it properly a few seconds later and enjoy your quiet mortification. And their excuse is that they're English and English people are terrible snobs, but what's the Buddhist excuse? What I'm trying to say is this. We sometimes use lingo or language to divide people into sections, people who pronounce it Powell over here, people who say Thich Nhat instead of Thich Nhat over there. And that used to be the case with show business slang, too. One way you could tell who was in show business and who was just pretending was who knew the jargon, who knew what a table reading was or what a callback meant. Now, when I was starting out, the way you prepared a script to read at the table reading was a process called the mimeo, I guess, from the old days of script production when drafts were mimeographed. Way before copiers and laser printers. I mean, I'm old, but I'm not that old. We had copying machines and laser printers, but the process was still called the mimeo because the writers would sit around with a writer's assistant and rewrite the script, sometimes by a lot, sometimes by not much at all, and get it ready to put into production. And back when they started doing that, they were mimeoing that script with a mimeograph machine. So the name just stuck. I mean, no one says mimeo anymore. They say tabling, as in we're tabling the script for next week, which is stupid and dumb in my opinion, which is, by the way, the correct opinion, because the table means something else. When a script is at the table, it means it's being read publicly by the cast and is about to get shot. Now, when I say mimeo these days, everybody rolls their eyes and exchanges glances as if to say, you know, Grandpa's dementia is coming around again. Not too long ago, I was in a meeting with the president of a television network. The show I was working on at the time was on the air, and successfully so. Sort of unusual for me, I guess, but it has happened in the past, despite the impression that my work here often conveys. I have had good meetings and successful exchanges and positive outcomes during my time in Hollywood. This was one of those times. The network president called a meeting because he had had a brainstorm. Those are his words, not mine. He was trying to figure out a way to maybe spin off a character from the series, and he pitched us a way to do it. We lay the pipe in one episode, he said, using the term lay the pipe, which was show business term. And then we develop it into another, and then we do another episode later where we create the idea of the spin-off, you know, subtly just bip, bip, bip. That's what he said. Bip, bip, bip. And when he said it, he made what I think he thought the appropriate air gesture was to make when you say the word bip, which was a cross between pointing and something a cruise ship magician does when the dove appears in the velvet box. Bip, bip, bip. So, of course, we kept a straight face, but the moment the meeting was over, we spent the next 4 hours making fun of the guy, of his bips, the finger gestures, and his idea that was dumb anyway, but anything else we could seize on and mock instead of, obviously getting back to work. And I think that's sort of what my younger colleagues do when I use the term mimeo and then I leave the room for a moment. But, the network president really wasn't to blame. He was just using a word he thought we used. I mean, we say beat and bit and blow and button. Why not bip? He was just trying to fit in, just trying to use the lingo, just trying to send the message that, hey, he knows what being a writer is all about. He knows the language. He knows how to make a TV show. The term showrunner, in fact, which used to be an inside term of art, almost always a form of a compliment, is now so well known that I got a laugh the other day with a bunch of non-show business civilian people by describing General Dwight D. Eisenhower as basically the showrunner of World War II, which, he kind of was, but it's only funny if you know the term showrunner, which not too long ago you wouldn't unless you were in direct contact with or responsible for paying an actual person who runs a show. Not too long ago, you knew who that person was running the show because that person's title was executive producer. But now, because everyone and everyone's manager and everyone's former studio executive is now an executive producer, the actual person tasked with running the show, that's often a baffling mystery to outsiders unless they know who the showrunner is, which they will because the New York Times will tell them and use the term showrunner. And yet, as the language and lingo of show business has gone mainstream, as the words we use to describe the process and the production of television shows has become known outside the studio gates, the actual knowledge, how to actually make a TV show, how to run a writer's room, how to assemble a team that can take episodes from the dry erase board to the set, that knowledge seems to be disappearing as the lingo gets more popular. Kind of weird. I heard this week about a show where the table readings are recorded on Zoom for executives who are too busy to attend, but somehow not too busy to deliver notes a few days later based on a Zoom video of a reading. I heard about a comedy series in which none of the writing staff have ever been together in the same room. They have never rewritten a script together. And I'm sure there are many mandates for cost cutting. Offices and lunches and everybody in the same room. It just seems like quaint, old-fashioned nonsense. A mimeo, in other words. But it's a lot cheaper than making a show for 3 seasons, 6 episodes apiece that doesn't really catch fire. We know how to talk about show running, in other words, but we've forgotten, a lot of us, how to actually do it. Our pronunciation of Pole and Thich Nhat Hanh is impeccable, but the shows we're making are just bip, bip, bip. And now I can leave the room, and you can roll your eyes and make jokes about sending me to assisted living, to which I say, show business in 2025 feels a little like assisted living already. And that's it for this week. Next week, I promise no ranting. Wait, I take that back. For The Ankler, this is Rob Long.